the Interrobang, I'm Gracia Espinosa, and welcome to a new episode of the Red Couch podcast. Today, our last special guest will be Hannah Theodore, the editor of the Interrobang. And, well, now you have to talk about your new position and what you are going to do right now after the Interrobang.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a new episode. It's also the last episode, like ever, which is kind of
Yeah.
sad. But I think I'm switching roles now to the FSU's communications coordinator. So I get to do similar work to what I've been doing, but kind of just like with a different focus now. Which is I honestly like always kind of wanted to move in this direction professionally. It's just like, you know, being a journalist is hard and it's like
For sure.
limited options. And I think that like the skills that you build as a journalist like really fit well into like communications and public relations, which I think is why you see so many journalists like kind of go in that direction. And so, yeah, I'm like really excited to be stepping into that new role. And yeah, Interrobang ending is obviously really sad. I think that this podcast has been such a amazing achievement over the past few years and what we've been able to do with it. When I started, the podcast just started. Like it was just starting. I was a student.
So around 5 years ago.
Yeah, five or six. Like I can't remember now. I was a part-time student at the Interrobang before I became the editor. And that was in like 2019. So kind of like just before COVID, which is crazy. And yeah, like the podcast was a very small operation at that time. This was also like the world of podcasting was still evolving at that time too. So nowadays it's like so common to have this like video element.
Not
right?
only audio, it's video podcast.
Gotta have it all, right? And so at the time that was less of a thing. So it used to just be like me and Ilhan Omar, who I just saw recently. She was like an old coworker of mine, and our editor at the time, Angela McInnes. It was mostly Angela and Ilhan, and then we had like a great partnership with the Gazette at that time, and so we'd have like reporters from Western would come, and we would record just like on little microphones, literally just like alone in an office. The two of us would like sit and just have a conversation. And it was very like low key. And then now it's like grown into this.
And who had the idea? Who was the first person who suggested, hey, this podcast will be a good idea for FSU, for the media?
I feel like it must have been Angela. At least who would have kind of like spearheaded it because she would have been the editor at the time. So I don't know if it was like a student had suggested it to her and then she kind of made it happen, or if it was just something that she wanted to do. I'd have to ask her. But she was definitely like very instrumental in making it happen. And then it kind of got left to me because I took over as editor from Angela and kind of had to like decide, okay, where are we going to go with this? Are we going to keep it going? How are we going to keep evolving it, And then, when Brandon, our videographer, Brandon Grubb, who started in the full-time videographer position, I think like a year or two after I started as editor, he's literally here, I could confirm, but it doesn't matter. Close enough. And he just helped like make everything look so much more professional.
Always all the videos are really professional thanks to him and Keegan and the rest of
every work study
of the team.
Like Asia last year was so amazing too, and like helping with that process. And just like everyone who kind of got it to this point. We also rebranded the podcast last year. That was a big change. Because previously it was just the Interrobang podcast, and then we shifted to call it the Red Couch podcast, and it kind of became like the conversations that we had at the time was like, okay, how do we make it feel, like what's the vibe, what's the energy that we want the podcast to have? And we found that like the episodes that tended to do the best, or that honestly, even just the ones that we enjoyed making and listening to the most, were the ones where it was just like students talking to each other and just having a conversation, and even like two reporters talking to each other. So the energy became like, okay, this couch is kind of like,
Now I
it's like a
understand.
comfortable place to like hang out and to feel like I want to go hang out on the red couch, you
That's
know?
the reason of not only that the name of the podcast is the Red Couch Podcast, is the vibe,
Yeah.
what do you want, what you wanted to share with the audience, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think like we wanted to make it feel like this was somewhere that you would want to come hang out, right? And I think we achieved that truly. Like I feel like we got some really awesome guests that came to see or to be on the show. And with every kind of like new group of reporters, we just got new conversations, right? New personalities. This year especially, we rotated hosts fairly frequently. So lots of different students kind of got the chance to sit on the couch and talk to each other. And it always helps give me insight too into like, what do students want to talk about? What's interesting to them, right? And I think, yeah, we kind of opened the doors to a lot of just kind of cool conversations. So, yeah, I'm really proud of what we were able to do with the podcast, and I do think that like it will continue
Ah,
at some point.
that's important to share with all the people who are listening and watching our episodes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know yet what shape it's going to take. But I do really hope that, you know, if it's not, maybe not an Interrobang product, but an FSU piece, that we can have, you know, just this very casual format of like having students talking to students, become something that we continue to do, whatever form that ends up taking. So I want to find a new avenue for it, and hopefully be able to keep it going. Um, it's probably going to take a little bit of time, but that's the goal. I think that, you know, it's been such a great opportunity to, like you said, for every student that's worked on the show, every like work study student, like videographer, that's been so helpful in just like making the episodes happen. Um, you know, we want to keep those opportunities there for them too. So, yeah, I see a path forward for the podcast, for the Red Couch podcast, whatever it becomes. So,
That's something that I'm glad to hear,
yeah.
because
And
this is the best format, not only um, uh, for the FSU. I think it's the best format for all the students and all the professors who want to tell stories or who want to share information. Because when you are reading on the website, I don't remember what I have just read.
yeah, I think it's like a different way of communicating information, right? And you might not even know that that's what's happening. You're just like listening to people have a conversation, right? And like you said, when you get like a professor on or something, and now all of a sudden you're learning about a program that we didn't even know Fanshawe had, right? With that like robotics, I can't even remember what that program was called. But you know, these like robots that
You are talking about the program
they're
related to drones.
yeah, like the remote drone, like engineering, that was so cool, right? And that was like, that professor came to us just because he was like, I really want people to know that this exists, you know? And that was really cool that we got to kind of uplift that. And I'm glad that, I should say, like, you've been such an amazing host, in like hearing those stories and wanting to continue to highlight them. And you've done such a great job of doing that. And like not only seeking out those stories, but like noticing when, if we did cover something in the paper, that you could say, okay, I actually think this is really interesting and that we should keep talking to this person, right? So nothing ever stopped with just a story, because you
Mhm.
knew, you have such a good instinct for knowing when something is going to be of interest to people.
Yeah, and sometimes an article is not enough for me to.
Yeah, you want to
Dig-
dig into
I
it,
mean,
right?
I think we can share and we can explain that for our articles, we always try 500 or 700 words
Yeah.
because we noticed from the beginning that people don't read more than 100 on the website, you know. So and it's more difficult if you have 1,000 words, and so we
Yeah.
always try to do to write articles that the students can
Yeah.
read quickly and at the same time can understand what's going on or what is happening.
Yeah, that like 500 to 700 limit is like really good for online. And also when it comes to like spacing for the paper, that's like roughly a half page article. So we keep that limit because it's like, you know, helpful for, like you say, communicating information. And then it helps us kind of like know where to space things in the paper. But if we have the opportunity to like dig into something a little bit more, right, and get into like a 30-minute conversation with someone, I think that's just like, it's really cool that we've had this additional outlet. And I'm just glad that we like stuck to it, you know, because it honestly, like another editor could have come in. I was in this position for 4 years, right? And so another editor could have come in and been like, I don't want to keep doing this.
Yeah.
You know, they could have just said, like, this is too much work. I want to focus. And that would have been, you know what, like that would have been their right. Like that's the thing about the editor job is like you do kind of get to say, this is the direction I want to go. For me, it was always that I wanted to keep growing the multimedia side. That was really important to me.
People cannot imagine that it's not only the hard work for sure, editing and shooting, but the next thing that for me is the most difficult is looking for interviewees or stories.
Yeah.
And try to listen to me. Come to our podcast. You can tell whatever you consider is good for us and for you, but something it was so really hard, or perhaps that person was not available when you were available. So that's for me something that perhaps I don't tell or don't explain, but it's something really hard.
That is the one downside of shooting on video is that people get really scared when there's a camera involved. Like it's a lot easier to convince people to like, hey, just come in for like a half an hour and like we'll talk on the microphone and it's no big deal. And then once you say like, hey, actually, so there's going to be a film crew and we're going to do a set and you got to come and shoot for half an hour, and then they're like, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that anymore. So, but when you do get that, it's like, man, it's so great to just have like the visual element is so huge. And now I find myself wanting that. Like when I'm listening to podcasts, I'm like, oh, I wish I could like see them.
It's true that at the beginning, all the podcasts were only audio.
Yeah.
Oh, and we alternate audio and video, but right now all of them are in video. How was that change for you?
That was just this year that we started doing that. And honestly, it was just because we had so many students who were so interested in like doing the podcast. And also because like we had you, honestly, and you were so enthusiastic and like willing to do it as often as you did. So yeah, that was a new thing this year to just do video every week. I think it was like conversations that Brandon and I had too, where we were like, can we do this? I was like, yeah, why not? You know, we have the time and we have the capacity. So like, you know, how different is it really, right? If you have to take a half hour or an hour out of your day regardless, like why not, you know? So it worked out, and it, you know, I actually didn't think it was as stressful as I maybe thought it would have been. It was pretty like, you guys were good. There were a couple times where I was like, you know, it's hard. The thing with the rotating host, really great when everyone is communicating. And sometimes it was like, okay, do you know you're hosting this week? You have to be here. Do you have a guest, right? You were very reliable, and that was very helpful. So anytime, and that's why, again, I'm so glad we had you, because if we ever did have those gaps, like you were so great at kind of filling them in. So I never really had to worry too much. But
now, Hannah, with your new position, I would like to know how do you feel? I don't know if you could say something about the FSU social media? Because I understood that that's the focus and the main goal of Fansha Student Union.
Yeah, I think like growing the social media side is a big piece of it. I'm also like really interested and focused on streamlining some of our communications when it comes to like email communications and just how often and consistently we are communicating with students, right? Not just like an initial communication, but like follow ups and check ins and how many different ways can we make sure students know that they're being listened to, right? Um, Even just something as simple as like posting to our Instagram story after an event to like acknowledge that we were happy you were there, you know? Um, we found that like students will visit the website most often to see like pictures from events because they
It
because
makes sense.
they want to see themselves on camera, right? And so it's so exciting to me that we've kind of assembled this team of students that are just so excited to be on camera and who represent a lot of different students at the college. We have domestic students, we have international students, you know, students who are just full of energy and who I think are going to be really amazing sort of like spokespeople for the FSU. And I want students to be able to go to events and recognize those faces and say, oh my gosh, I saw you in that TikTok and I know that you are like the face of the FSU, right? So that's a huge piece. And then, like I said, on the back end, like I'm a writer, like through and through. That's like where my passion is writing. Once upon a time, communications was a lot of writing, and now I think there's less of a focus on that. But I am like so actively against AI when it comes to writing because I think that it sucks at writing. I think that it's bad at it, and I want to make sure that our written communications sound like people and sound like a voice that you recognize. And when you see a written communication from the FSU, you know that that's where it's coming from. So I want to help establish what that voice is going to sound like across the board, not just on our social media, but by email, in our newsletter, even just like internal staff communications, right? How are we talking to each other? So I'm like excited to do that stuff.
Two things.
Yeah.
One of them is, well, you are the video news roundup is going to continue, right? And you're going to be the host, or
I don't know about that. I mean, I do want it to continue. I don't want to do it anymore.
that's something I didn't know. I thought for you it was not a big deal
So-
to be in front of the camera.
It's not. And so this is the thing. I am very comfortable on camera. But it occurred to me this year, because it was the wildest thing. Like so many times this year, I would have students come up to me and be like, "Oh my gosh, I recognize your face. Like you're on the screens, right? I've seen you all over the place." And I would be like, "Listen, that's cool. I'm like so stoked that you recognize me, but like I'm a 30-year-old nobody. You shouldn't recognize my face. You should be recognizing the face of like the president, right? Or some of these like FSU spokespeople that we're talking about on the communications team. You should recognize the VPs or as like right now the coordinators." So I think whatever shape that like the podcast or the VNR takes, I want it to be those guys, you know, because I want the students to be able to say, to see Jerry in the hallway and go, I recognize you from the big screen, right? Same with the VPs, right? It shouldn't be me. I want to be able to take a backseat from some of the forward-facing stuff because I really think that students should be seeing themselves as much as possible. As cool as it was to be, my fiance calls it being rockignised because he's a musician. So that's like, you know, like rock music. So you've been rockignised anytime someone like sees you in the street and they're like, I know your face. So that was cool, but I think I don't want to be that person anymore. Stop recognizing me. I'm done now.
And the second thing, it's related to the AI because one day when Brandon and me were talking about one of the posts of Fansha,
Mm-hmm.
students were really, really upset because one of the posts was created by AI,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So why didn't use students of graphic design or
Yeah.
other programs to create? They use the AI because there is like a trend related to create toys, you know, your
Mm.
toy version with AI.
Yeah.
So instead to do it with AI, why they didn't do it with the students? I mean,
That's kind of where I'm at. Like, I think I'm not like, listen, I think that there's like a place for AI as like a tool with like back end
mm-hmm,
stuff. I don't think that AI should be doing anything creative ever. And that's just kind of like, you know, an artistic thing that like I agree. We have students who are perfectly capable, right? And who have talent and who would love the opportunity to do something like that, right? And what we were able to do for so many years at Interrobang is give those students opportunities, right? Whether you wanted to write, draw, create comics, write satire, like we had those opportunities, right? So for me, when I see people resorting to AI to do creative work, it just bums me out because it's so hard already to find work in the creative industries, and now you're trying to save money to like give that work to AI, which, let's just like be so for real, guys, it looks bad. It looks bad, it sounds bad, the writing is bad. It's just like it's I don't mean to sound too altruistic, but like it's like kind of soulless, you know? And I just think that if you have someone who's willing to do the work, why not give them an opportunity? Sure, it might take a little longer. You might have to, God forbid, pay them, but it's worth it because things will suck less. Like I, to me, it's just like a no-brainer. So if I can, in this role, help to make sure that we don't start cutting corners like that, when we do again have so many students, like you say, graphic design students, fine art students, journalist students, like journalism students can do communication work, right? They're good at it. They're writers. Um, they're great communicators. That's part of their
mm-hmm.
job, right? They're here. They're studying at the college. So, you know, why would we not give them the opportunity?
Well, Hannah, I don't know if you want to highlight something or you would like to say something in our last episode of the Red Couch podcast.
I mean, I just want to say, I guess, like, thank you to everyone
Yeah.
who has like been consistently watching. Like, I know that there are um, those of you out there that have been avid watchers and listeners. Um, Obviously, everyone who picked up the newspaper ever, like, even if you picked it up one time just to do a crossword, thank you. Um, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry that this is what's happened and that this has to be the end. Um, but I think that if you're a student out there and you're continuing on in the summer or in the fall, and if this mattered to you, then make sure, you know, like use your voice, right? You don't have to just accept it, right? You can make noise about it. You can tell the people who are there to listen to you that you don't want this to go away if it matters to you,
Mm.
right? And I would also say thank you to you, Gracia, because this is Gracia's last day, and she's just been like the best, like the most
Well,
incredible employee that you could ever hope for.
I have been trying to do my job. Obviously, I'm going to continue, keep going with my English. I know I have to improve, but since the first episode and the last one, I have been trying to do my best. For sure, I would like to say thank you not only to our audience, our followers, our audience. I would like to say thank you to all the interviewees that I had and the rest of the hosts we had, because you were so nice with us, because I know that when you want to shoot an episode and we are not famous, this is not the one of the podcasts more popular in Canada for sure,
Mhm.
but you know, it's our part of our our work. So when you came here, you have no idea how represent for us.
Yeah. Anyone who ever chose to like use this outlet and to understand the reach that Interrobang had, like that was so special for me as an editor when people who reach out to us to
Yeah.
say, hey, I think I would love to be on the show, or there's something that I think students should know about, right? And I should say too, like, thank you, like all of our hosts throughout the years, like anyone who ever took up this position in whatever capacity, Ilhan Omar, Ben Perry
Justin,
Etha, Justin Kohler, Amy Simon,
Constant,
Constantino Drosos, yeah,
Mauricio
Mauricio Prado
Prado,
did it for a while, Alex Allen,
Jack
Jack Sutton,
Standen.
Briar Wilson, Ainsley, Georgia Newman, who did our bonus episodes this year. Just like I think everyone on the team touched the podcast in some capacity this year. So, you know, just amazing what everyone was able to do. And everyone kind of made it their own, right? So it was really cool to see how it evolved and took all these different shapes depending on who was hosting. And yeah, it's been really special.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really glad that we got to this point. And of course, we already mentioned it, but thank you to Brandon for all the work he did to make this show what it is. Keegan, Asia, every work study student that kind of helped as well. So yeah, it's sad that it's over, but all of this work is not going to be forgotten. Everything that we've built, we're going to find a way to make it into something else. Cause I think that it's too good. Like, look at this set. Like, it's good. It's so high quality. It's so incredible.
So professional.
So professional. And I think that it can be so much fun if we just like, you know, commit to keeping it going somehow. So this isn't like the end. I don't think it's the end of the Interrobang Red Couch podcast, but this might take a new form one day. And as long as I'm here, I'm going to keep trying to find a place for it. So you haven't seen the last of this show. You've probably seen the last of me, but I'm still here. You can email me. That's where I'll be. Not in front of the camera anymore. As wonderful as it's been. That's enough of my face.
Well, I don't know if I can end the episode as usual.
I mean,
I do.
Yeah.
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 Why not?
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Red Couch podcast. You know that you can reach out with Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and you can catch up with every episode on YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's another option, and you can see our beautiful faces.
Yes. Yeah. Nothing is going away from the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
You can keep watching everything. You don't have to subscribe to the Interrobang newsletter anymore. That's fine. You can subscribe to the FSU newsletter. There'll be stuff in there.
And for the Interrobang, I'm Gracia Espinosa.